Hey writers, it's Haley, and my last video that I filmed, not the one with Caleb, but the one before that where I was just like, hey, I'm back from maternity leave, was crazy. There was no structure to it at all. I was just so happy to be back on camera. So this time we're gonna have a little bit more structure, and I want to talk to you guys specifically today about scams as an author that you need to know about, because there's a lot of them, and oh my gosh, I just saw this video about something called pig butchering. It's a new scam, and if you guys think that you're like above getting scammed, you need to go look this up because it's actually really scary and something any of us could fall for. But it got me thinking we need to talk about scams that are specific to writers that you guys need to know about as you either start your career, you're halfway through your career, you're wherever you're at in your career. It's good to know about these things so that you know how to avoid them and just what to look for. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. What do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that we're gonna talk about. So the first one is agents. If you guys are getting ready to publish and you're looking to find an agent, something that every author needs to know is that agents don't charge you money. And if an agent is trying to charge you money, they are not an agent. They're not doing what they're supposed to be. And you need to run away from them and find a different one. So the way that agents work, the way that they're supposed to work, is that they take you on as a client and they sell your book and they make a portion of what you make. So this is why it's really hard to get an agent when you're starting out, is they have to really think that they can sell your work. They have to absolutely believe in it because they don't get paid unless you get paid, which is great because, you know, we all want to get paid. So if they're telling you that they're going to charge you up front for the service of them being an agent, it means that they have no incentive to actually go out and sell the book because they're already making their money. And it's just absolutely known across the industry that they don't do that. They don't operate like that. All standard agents, good agents, agents that you want to be with are the ones who take the money after the book has been sold. And then along those lines, actually, speaking of like business services and charging for promoting your book, for publishing your book, for anything along those lines, the next thing I want to talk about is hybrid publishers, this is just a rebrand of Vanity Publishers. That's what they used to be called, but vanity is not exactly a positive term, so they've rebranded themselves as hybrid publishers, but it's all the same. And this isn't necessarily a scam, and you guys may have heard me talk about this before. Hybrid publishers, what they're doing, Vanity Publishers, is they're just charging you for a service. So the reason that I have this on the list of scams is because they misrepresent themselves a lot of the time. They'll make it sound like they've read your book and they like your book and they're super excited about your book, and they don't care. They don't care if your book is good or not. So my story when I first started out, like when my very first draft was done and I was ready to get it published, I went online and I entered my phone number into, you know, publishyourbook.com or whatever it was, not TM, that's probably not what it was, but you know what I'm saying. And they called me and they were like, oh my gosh, Haley, we read your synopsis and your book is so exciting. We have to publish it. It's going to be so good. And I was like, oh, well, obviously I know that. I know it's great. I was very overconfident when I very first had my first draft done. And they were like, it's just here's the different packages that you can buy. For $5,000, we'll publish your book and do some marketing. But for $10,000, we'll publish this many copies and we'll do your warehousing and we'll get you on whatever show on TV. And it's like, wait a minute, you want me to pay you? And this is the thing, is that with a traditional publisher, they pay you. You are not paying them. They pick up the book. If they actually believe in it and they actually think that it's good, they pay you up front, you know, a certain signing fee, and then you also get royalties sometimes once that signing fee has been earned out. It kind of depends on your contract. But the gist of it is that a real legit publisher who believes in your work and, you know, is taking a chance on you, they're going to pay you and then take care of all the publishing. Whereas a hybrid and a vanity press, they kind of masquerade like they're doing you this service and they're super excited about the book. They just need you to provide a one-time investment. And what it is they're charging you for a service. They're charging you money to print the books, which is not necessarily a scam if they're honest about it and if they actually do what they say they're going to do. So if they say for $10,000, we'll print you 2,000 copies and we'll warehouse them and we'll ship them out to bookstores when they ask for them, that's a legitimate business service. And it's not actually something that I would discourage if that's something that you want to do. But the thing to know about hybrid presses is basically what they're going to do for you is what you could already do for yourself for a lot less. So almost everything that they're going to do for you, I would say probably everything they're going to do for you, except maybe warehousing, maybe the distribution. It's mostly stuff that you would be able to do on your own. So that's why they've made the scam list. It's not that all of them are scams, but they can be if they don't provide the service that they say they're going to, or if they are really misleading about what they are and they're trying to get you excited and say that they've read your book and say that they think that it's really good. They haven't, they don't. Ask them any questions about it. Well, what was your favorite part? They're gonna start making it up. And so yeah, that's why they've made the list. You can use them if you want, just be aware that that's what they are. They're not what we would consider traditional publishers. They're not paying you and they're not doing it because they have any faith in your book. They're doing it as a business service and they just a lot of times are really misleading about it. Let's see. The next thing is, I'm actually going to skip ahead because along those lines, the next thing I want to talk about is actually marketing cold calls. That's not how this went on the list that I had written down, but I can mix things up and I think I can stay on track. So along kind of really similar lines to the hybrid publishers, when we're talking about paying for business services, every once in a while you're gonna get a call or an email or a DM on Instagram from influencers and from people who want to market your book for you at whatever big book fair that's coming up. And it's not to say that those aren't real legitimate services, but the thing is, if they were good, if they were good at making money for you, they wouldn't need to contact you. You would want to contact them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they were good at their jobs and like actually getting your materials out into the world, there would be a line of authors lining up to work with them. They wouldn't have to be cold calling you to ask you to take out advertising in like their magazine or whatever it is. I can't believe that I get these calls. And I don't even know how they get my information. They've literally called my parents to be like, hey, Haley hasn't called us back about taking out ads in our magazine. I'm like, how did you know my parents? Get their information. They're very, very aggressive. And I don't like it. And who wants to take out a book ad in a magazine anyways? I would not recommend that. But like I said, if they're having to contact you, I would really, really question the validity of their claims. Are they just taking your money? Are you even going to get any marketing at all? I would call these scams because if, like I said, if they were worth working with, they wouldn't have to reach out. Like they would have a line of authors trying to work with them. And it's not to say that this will always be the case. Like sometimes there might be like an influencer on Instagram who reaches out and wants to showcase your book on their page and all they want is a free book. You know what? That might be actually a really good collaboration. So you guys have got to, take it in stride. Really evaluate each situation. And I would say just that the most important thing to take a look at is with those Instagrammers, those influencers, anyone who's trying to get you to either pay for marketing or send them a free book or do anything as a collaboration, take a look at what they are selling. And it's really important that their site is more catered to readers than it is to writers. Because if you go and check out their site and you see a whole bunch of stuff about, hey, come market your book, we'll get your book out to this many people, blah, 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 they're probably not the best person to work with. They should be, if this was somebody worth working with, that site would be towards readers. It would be saying, hey, readers, check out these books. This one's free this week. This one's on sale. This one has great reviews. You've got to check it out if you liked this. If you go to their site and it's more geared towards writers than it is towards readers, then you know that their business model isn't by getting books out to readers. Their business model is by recruiting writers to buy their services, which is not what you want. So they make the scam list. Not everybody who reaches out to you is a scammer, but be very wary and very conscious of who you work with, and anybody who cold emails you or cold calls you about taking out ads in whatever they're trying to sell you. And the reason that I moved this up on the list is because this is one of the times that somebody called me on the phone and was like, Haley, your book, I'm sure you guys, if you've been publishing for a while, you may have gotten these calls too. They say, your book has been recommended to us by our discovery department, our talent discovery department. It says that your book would be a great fit for our advertising services. And so then when they call me, like on the telephone, and they're like, oh my gosh, I read your book. It was so exciting. We're really excited to advertise it. And I have quizzed them and been like, oh, tell me the main character's name. And I can hear them reading the back of the book, like to themselves in a whisper, trying to find the character's name so that they can like pretend that they have any idea what's going on. And they basically, sometimes they can recite to you like what's on the back of the book, like the synopsis that you put out, but they don't even do much more research than that. You just have to know they're trying to recruit you to make a buck. I don't even know if there is a magazine that they're putting you in. And if there is, it's probably not that great. So I would just steer clear. It's not worth your time and effort. And if it was, they wouldn't be calling you. You would be lining up with other authors to get their services. Okay, so since I switched things around, the next thing, oh gosh, I really didn't organize these in the best way. Okay, I'm switching them again. The next thing we're going to talk about is, speaking of like cold calling and things either coming in the mail or coming through your email, another thing that gets pitched to me a lot is services that will take care of your business paperwork for you. And I'm not saying like don't work with a CPA. I definitely work with a CPA. This is different. This is like, I'll get a piece of mail that says, hey, whatever form is due, and here's all the penalties if you don't file it, and it's $150 to file, blah, blah, blah. And I get down to the end and I'm like, this isn't right, because I've been doing this long enough. I know this isn't right. There are fees, it was my LLC renewal. I think that's what it was. And it was like $150 to file, and they're telling me all the penalties that are going to happen if I don't file this renewal on time, and it's $150, and I'm like, that's not the right price. I know what it costs, it's not that much. And I like scroll down, it's a physical letter, but of course I scroll down to the bottom and I'm reading the fine print, and it says in very, very fine print at the bottom that this is like not from this letter's not from the IRS. It's not from any actual recognized tax collecting entity. It's a business that makes their money by scaring you into thinking that you need to send them $150. And yes, they do actually, they are actually filing the LLC paperwork for you, but it's only supposed to cost a fraction of that in reality. So it may cost, I don't actually remember the number now, but it might cost like $50 to file your LLC renewal. But they scare you into thinking that they are the IRS and that you need to send them the form and that it's $150, and they're just pocketing the $100 and then filing the form for you. And that is so just dirty. And that's why it's made the scam list, because yes, they are actually filing it for you, but it's just dirty the way that they're going about it. And you can file it yourself and not pay them $100. And I don't like it. And I actually had an issue, gosh, 2 years ago now, where I did hire a reputable company to do, I was changing my LLC to be taxed as an S Corp. It's a whole thing. We're gonna do a video about that another time. But the company that I hired to do it, I sent them all my information, I paid the fee, and then I got busy and I didn't see they sent one email at the very end after everything was done and paid. They sent one email to me that said, here's the form, we put your information into the slots, you need to send it into the IRS. And it was the one email that I missed somehow. And so the paperwork didn't get filed, and it caused this huge tax issue for me the next year. And I'm still mad about it because what a scam. I don't know, some things are scams and some things aren't, but that was just so frustrating because they never once in the whole process said, oh, we're just gonna put your information into the right boxes, because there were only like 5 boxes to fill out. It wasn't like hard. I could have figured that part out. I thought that they were filing it for me, and they never ever gave me any indication that they weren't gonna file it, because I wouldn't have gone with them. I would have just done it myself. So for any licensing, any taxes, any sort of business fee that you need to pay to the government, don't do it through a third party, you guys, unless it's your CPA and they're doing it for you and it's someone who you trust and is literally doing all your taxes. Don't hire these third party services, because they're really dishonest about what they're doing a lot of the time, and they can cause you a lot of problems, as I had to learn the hard way. So you know what, that company probably isn't technically a scam, because yes, they did actually put my information into the boxes, but no, you know what, it makes the list. I am gonna say it's a scam because they didn't tell me until the very, very end that they weren't filing it for me, and it happened to be the one email I missed, and it was terrible. So the very last thing we're gonna talk about on this, oh no, there's 2 more, I'm sorry. The very last 2 things we're gonna talk about, first of all, we're gonna talk about hiring services that's like artists, formatters, editors. Guys, there's a really big rule of thumb here, which is only hire people who come recommended by fellow authors. If you don't have another author vouching for them, saying, I have worked with them, it went well, I love what they did, don't work with them. I'm almost gonna say especially if they're your friends. Friends, oh, guys, and I know you're gonna be like, Haley, Angelique, who illustrates your macho books, is like your best friend, but that's different because we started doing macho together but first. We worked together as business partners making a book before we became friends. Now she's my best friend. We didn't do it the other way around. When you hire your friends, you run the risk that either the work is not going to be as good as you're looking for, and then you have this really awkward moment where you're like, well, I don't want to publish this now, so what do I do without offending my friend? Working with friends it's tough, guys. I don't recommend it. Unless you've worked together before, unless you really, really are confident in their stuff. I mean, it's scary. But don't work with strangers. That's the way, way, way more important one. Strangers, unless they're coming to you recommended by other authors, they can either lie about how good they are. I've had that happen. They can not get the stuff to you on time, had that happen. They cannot get the stuff to you at all, had that happen. They can be real divas about it and then cause you all sorts of other issues, had that happen. I don't actually think I've ever, maybe like half of one time, had a good experience working with total strangers. It's always people who've come recommended to me or people who you've met in person. And like I said, not necessarily your friends, but people who are artists who you have sat down, had a real conversation with, and have just absolutely the best feeling about. If you have any reservations at all, don't work with them. Artists, formatters, editors. I can't tell you guys how many times I've done editing with someone and they're like, oh my gosh, is this what editing's supposed to be like? I paid some person X amount of dollars, with X being a very large number, and gosh, they didn't do anything for me, or all they did was they came back and gave me like a couple places that I missed a comma. There's a lot of places that this can go wrong, so you have to be really careful about who you work with. There are people who are just not as good as they say they're gonna be, and there are people who are just downright true scammers who never intend to give you what they're saying they're gonna give you. And yeah, even if you have a contract with them, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go hunt them down, take them to small claims court? Let me tell you guys a secret. Small claims court isn't worth it. It's not gonna work out if you think that you can hold someone to your art contract and take them to small claims court to make it happen. This is just your reality check. That's not real. It's not gonna go the way that you think it is. So be really, really careful of who you contract with for those services. And then the very last thing we are going to talk about today is what to be on the lookout for when you are doing in-person sales. So you're at an event, you've got people coming up to your booth, you're chit-chatting with them. We had this really interesting one that made me think about this not too long ago, where this guy, it was just interesting, and I don't actually know if he was trying to scam us. I don't even think he was, but he like bought a pack of books for $100 and then came back and decided he didn't want them and he wanted his money back. And I had somebody work in the booth with me, and I was like, make sure you grab the exact same $100 bill that he gave to us to give back to him. It was a strange situation, but I didn't really want to deal with it, so we gave the money back to him and he gave the books back to us. But one of the things you need to be on the lookout for is fake cash, because in situations like that, if they give you $100, they leave and they come back and you grab a different $100 bill out of your pouch, and then you go to the bank later and you find out that the $100 that they gave you was fake, you are out $100. Just FYI, everybody, the bank does not reimburse you guys for that. And another way that they can go about this is by asking for change. So they might buy a $5, $10, $20 item with a $100 bill, and you give them all the change, so $80 back in change, and they take the book, whatever. They don't actually want your book, they don't want whatever you're selling, they just wanted to pawn off that fake $100 on you and get 80 real dollars in return. They just made $80, and when you get to the bank, they're gonna confiscate that 100 for you, send it off to the Secret Service. This is actually a real thing. The bank will put it in an envelope addressed to the Secret Service. I know this from my days of banking. And you're just out that money, and it's really unfortunate, and a whole report gets filed on it. Let me see if I actually, give me just a second. Okay, we're gonna go over what fake bills look like real quick, because this is something I have a lot of experience with. You guys, a lot of you know I worked in banking for 5 years, and I could go through a stack of $50,000 like this tall and find the one bill that was fake in it, just flipping through. A lot of times you can feel it. That's your number one indicator, is if you handle money at all, you will feel something is off with the paper. But let's talk real quick. I've got a couple hundreds, a 50, and a couple 20s here. For $100 bills, the number one thing that you want to look for is this stripe in the middle. Bills these days are blue, and I actually happen to have a green one here. We're going to talk about the blue one first. So this stripe in the middle is holographic, and when you flip it back and forth, it switches between the number 100 and a Liberty bill. I have never seen a fake $100 bill that got that right. So if you are getting a $100 bill, that's really the only thing you even need to look at. You don't need a fancy pen. Yes, you can like hold it up to the light and there's a watermark here. Can you see? So it's important actually that you can't see the watermark if it's not being held up to the light. If you just see a picture of somebody there, then something's wrong. It's when you hold it up to the light, which I don't have a, wait, hang on, maybe I do. Can you see that? No. The important part of a watermark is that there is no face if you're not holding it up to the light, and there is a face when you hold it up to the light. The stripe down the middle changes between the Liberty Bell and the number 100. And then one of the things that I always thought was super helpful was checking that the number in the corner was shiny and sparkly. That is one of the things that they almost never get right. And so if you don't see that, don't take that bill. And that's the same on a 50, on a 20, on anything else. The numbers down in the corner here are just slightly shiny and sparkly. And if they don't have that, don't take it. That's actually the number one thing I always looked for on the bills, was the holographic stripe down the middle on the hundreds, the sparkly number on the 20s and 50s. One of the most common things that I saw was that, you know, once the blue hundreds came out, which are way harder to counterfeit, people would bring in the old ones. These are the ones that are way, way, way more often to be fake. So just remember to check the watermark, make sure it's not there when it's not being held up in the light, and make sure it is there when it is being held up in the light. Yep, there he is. This is real. And then also check that the numbers on the corners are shiny, and that will keep you from taking any fake bills. And honestly, if you are concerned about it at all, if you're holding it and you're not sure, don't take it. It's okay to be rude to the customer, and you don't have to look at it like you're accusing them. Just assume that they aren't the ones who counterfeited it. Assume that it was passed to them by somebody else, but say, hey, I'm really not sure about this, I can't take it. And if they get upset, they were probably trying to scam you. So don't feel pressured or like you need to accept anything that you aren't sure about. And then one of the last things, apart from just counterfeit bills, is there's a name for this. I can't remember what it is, but it's where they rush the transaction. And this was something that we saw in banking, which was that they give you like a big bill and they want a weird amount of change. And then as you're giving it back to them, they'll change the number and be like, oh, actually, here's 20 more. Can you actually make it an even number and give this much back to me? And then they might even change it on you one more time. And then by the time you like are done with the transaction, you're looking around and you're like, did I just give him the right amount of money? And it's a real scam that people run and they're rushing you. They're like, I really gotta go. I don't have a lot of time for this. Can you please just like make the right amount of change? And they're giving you pressure. And if anybody's trying to pressure you when you're counting money, just stop. Just be like, you know what? I don't need this sale. I need to count this at the rate I'm gonna count it. And if that's a problem, then you don't need to be buying from me. People should not be rushing you, and they shouldn't be doing 5 different changes. I mean, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it really is like, oh, here's an extra 20 or here's an extra whatever. Can you give me exact change? But one of the really easy things to remember to avoid that becoming a problem is don't put any money away into your money pouch, your money bag, whatever, and just don't put anything away and don't hand them anything until you have the exact right number. So if they're going back and forth and adding things and subtracting things and you've put some in your money pouch and you've given a couple bucks back to them and you have some that are on the table in front of you, yeah, it's really actually very easy to lose track, and then they can come away with $20 extra that was yours that now they've made off with. So the rule of thumb there is just don't put anything away and don't hand anything to them. Have it all in one sum so that by the end you say, okay, well, you gave me 20, I gave you this, you gave me that. So at the end of the day, I owe you $5, right? And you make sure you both are in agreement that you owe them $5 before you hand it over to them, or before, if they owe you $5, before you put anything in your pouch. That avoids that, I know there's a name for it, but that avoids that problem of people rushing you and trying to force you into giving them an incorrect amount of change that then of course is in their favor. And if they do that to everybody at a big show and they make off with $5, $10, $20 off of each person, that's pretty lucrative. That one you don't see as often, but it's good to be aware that it exists. So let's see, I think that is everything that I have on my list, right? Yep, that was all of them. Those are the scams to watch out for as you undertake your author business. I hope everything is going really well for you guys. Keep up the writing, keep up the sales, keep up being great authors and everything that you do. And I will see you next time. Bye.